Good to see you.
You see you also. Thank you for the invite. I appreciate that.
Help everybody out by giving us a sense of what your background has been. How long have you lived in Cambridge? What is the long story about your connection with this city?
Well, I was born and raised in Cambridge. My family goes back many generations, way back to Sam Spicer and over in Crapo, and many of the families here in Cambridge originate from this one particular individual who's Native American. I'm actually a cousin of Victoria Jackson Stanley. She was a former mayor, and many other notable people who have been in leadership in Cambridge.
And so, and you've had a professional career. I mean, you have. Do you still go to the Western Shore every day? I can't remember.
No, well, that's actually it's coming to a close. At first, I was a correctional officer for a couple of years. I had the ranking of corporal, and that was right here in Dorchester County. And
Oh,
when I decided to run for council, I figured that was the time for me to switch professions. So that's when I transitioned into the financial industry, more specifically like insurance.
yeah.
So yeah, so I've been working, off and on in insurance. But the majority of time in that field, I'm working from home. There is another company I was working for. I'm in the transition of switching to part-time because, yes, that was very much a commuting
Yeah.
position. I had to commute daily to
It's like I felt your pain.
Baltimore. It was Glen Burnie, I think, just outside of DC for a little bit. But I'm closing that down because it's time for me to make myself available. So we can move forward with this leadership as mayor of Cambridge.
So at some point, somewhere along the line, you decided that you weren't just going to simply vote in these elections. You were going to participate. You decided to run for office, and I want to capture that part first, and then we can talking about the mayor's position.
So how that happened is I'm the mom of three sons. So at the time we moved back to Cambridge because I'm born and raised in Cambridge, but I moved, lived in Salisbury for a bit. I live in Queen Anne County, but there was a time where we needed to reset, and Cambridge is home. So me and my sons, we moved back to Cambridge. And while we were here, they weren't too happy with Cambridge because after living in Queen Anne County, there's a
Oh,
difference,
yeah.
especially in the school system. So I just try to teach my sons instead of complaining, be a part of the solution. So that was the motivation of me deciding to want to be more active and, in local organizations. And then eventually led for me to decide I want to run for the city council award too. I just wanted the city to be better
Yeah.
instead of just complaining and nagging about it,
Yeah.
putting it on social media.
Tell me about your learning curve. It's one thing to run for office. It's another thing to sit in those chairs, and you're in the where the sausage is made.
Absolutely. And that's why it's extremely important to reach out to those who have done this, those who have been involved in local government for many years. So, former Commissioner Gilbert Cephas, I built a relationship with him. I asked him many times, how was Cambridge at that time? How did you vote? Same thing with former Mayor Wooten. I
Oh,
formed a relationship with him as well, and former Mayor Victoria Jackson Stanley. I reached out to her many times. So that's why it's extremely important to talk to those who've actually done it. And not only that, residents that have been engaged, throughout this process many years. So it's always good to pick the brains of other people. And the other thing is my mom and dad never left Cambridge. So my dad always knew what was happening here. So, he's a great resource as well, talk to him about, okay, so what did you think about when this happened? So it's
oh,
always good
oh,
talking to the elders and to the residents that have been here.
yeah.
Also looking in the archives, looking at prior council members, council meeting minutes, actually reading those and
Oh,
also watching the videos. So that's actually what helped the learning curve. And something that pushed me to the next level of that is actually participating in conferences such as MML, taking those classes.
oh,
Um, and it actually pays off because what it does is whatever that curve is, they always provide resources. And I actually enrolled in the governance of excellence fellowship. And actually, this September, I think it's the 22nd or 21st. Forgive me, I can't remember the exact date. I actually
Right.
graduate from
Oh,
that program with the Maryland Municipal League.
the question in my mind is what makes one want to be a mayor? Was there a tipping point for you?
Yeah, for a period of time, once Andrew Bradshaw, once he decided he was going to resign, and even a little bit before his resignation, that the council gave me the ability to act with the rights and powers and responsibilities of mayor, and I did that for about 9 months.
Oh,
So once you're in the groove of it, because that's not something signed up for. I never signed up to be the mayor. It's just something that happened. To be truly honest with you, I thought the commission president position, I thought it was just a position where if the mayor is not here, then, that means,
right.
I'll run the meeting, but never would I have thought that we would not have a mayor and I
Yeah.
would actually have to fulfill the other responsibilities of it. But during that process, I learned a lot. It's like a crash course from my perspective and the perspective of others. We did a really great job when I operated with those powers. One of the greatest accomplishments is establishing the gun violence reduction task force. So I did that during the time I was executing those powers, and it actually birthed the juvenile curfew, which is controversial, but long story short, it did the city more good than what it's doing any bad.
Yeah. It was just passed, right?
Yes, we just passed to extend it another year. We did get some good data from that. There were some services that were recommended to families, that needed it and families that welcomed it. So it's giving us an idea to know that we actually do have an issue with youth that were out too late and too early in the morning.
Right. When you look back in your term of office, I mean, were you sometimes saying, boy, if I was mayor, I would be doing X, Y, and Z rather than B, C, and D?
Well, to be honest with you, I really think the mayors that we've had, I really think they tried their best at their capacity. So there really isn't any what they call Monday morning quarterbacking that I would want to participate in. But the one role that I do see the mayor having is being that unifying voice, the voice that'll bring people together, the mediator,
Yeah.
and everything. And, there were great examples of former Mayor Victoria Jackson Stanley, and even great moments of former Mayor, actually current Mayor Steve Rideout. I know he's not running again, so excuse me for saying former, but they each have exhibited great moments of
Yeah.
leadership, and it was actually really inspiring to say, you know what, I'm learning from this. I could see me doing this, and I could see myself being a great leader of this community that I call home. Another great component of being mayor is something I've done as a commission president and also as a city council member is actually networking with other council members, networking, with different departments of the state and federal government, more specifically HUD, and it's a really great feeling being in these spaces and telling this story, talking about the history of Cambridge,
Yeah.
and then actually asking them at the end, of the conversation, what can you do to help us? We have these opportunities. You're in the department of HUD. What can you do to help us so we can take this vision to the next level? So that's the one thing that I really enjoyed the most, being able to bring in resources to Cambridge and networking.
Yeah. What are your priorities? If this thing works out, what do you really want to do? What do they call it? On day one?
Well, I can say with the mayor's position, it's not necessarily you're sitting in an office. From my perspective, from the time where I executed powers, rights, and mayor, to me it was more or less being in the community. So basically, from day one, whoever's reaching out to me who would like to have a meeting, someone who has or organization or nonprofit that has ideas as far as how we can make this city better. From day one, it would be my priority to meet with these organizations so we can create
Yeah.
some sort of strategy and figure out how does the city fit into this. So some of the priorities, because there isn't just one specific topic that it's like we're going to focus on that. There's actually 7 points or 7 covenants that I think are really, really important in order for us to make Cambridge this one unified city that I know that we can be. So, but public safety, just to lightly touch on it, it's like public safety and public service reinvestment, engagement with intergenerational and also multicultural communities. I think it's important that, our younger and our older communities and our communities of many backgrounds understand what's happening in the city. Just having some sort of partnerships, with our mental health, and our substance dependency organizations, because currently this month, Dorchester's going purple, and it's very important, that the community is aware of how opioid dependency, how it affects families, and not just families, and also how it affects those who use those drugs, and they're finding difficulty, finding freedom from it. Economic development. One of the bigger points of that is the waterfront development. We truly need that development to move forward. I know we're debating on how to get there, but I truly believe just about 99% of us believe we need to get there. Workforce development, which is a part of economic development. Environmental planning and some sort of sustainable development, such as dog parks. Even this amazing the amazing waterline resiliency that's there to protect the shoreline and the homes that we have in the West End area. So I can go on and on. Community development, housing falls under that. And then I think one area that many of us forget about is partnerships with the communities of faith. And that's all faith communities, whether Islamic, whether you're of the Jewish faith, Buddhism, Christian, no matter what it is. It's just a matter of welcoming, making every organization, every community of faith feel welcomed, even if you're not a part of a faith-based community, still feeling welcome and knowing that because you decide not to have that, it's still okay.
What has given you the most satisfaction?
Kids. I would say kids, being invited to the elementary school. And at this time I had the powers and rights of mayor at this particular time, but seeing little kids yelling and shouting and saying, "That's the mayor," even though I wasn't technically the mayor, but I understood what they were saying, but it inspired them. So
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, being in a room full of children and knowing that this is the future and this is our opportunity to get this right, to set this up right. So by the time they're high school age, college age, they're not going to leave Cambridge as many of us have done. They'll decide, I'm going to stay here. This is my hometown, and they're going to reinvest and make this city even better than what it could be.
I want to save some time for you. Is there anything else that the community should know about you or this particular race or, what the future holds for Cambridge?
This particular race, this isn't a race for Lajan, me running as mayor. This is a race for all of us. I truly, sincerely, and anyone that has ever engaged with me for a resident level or maybe a citizen level, anyone has ever engaged with me regarding a concern with the city, I'm pretty sure just about all of them will say, she spoke for me. She represented me. I always try to take all concerns serious, and I always have the goal of coming up, obviously, with the partnerships of city staff, but trying to come up with a solution that's near immediate, nothing that's dragged out. And if it isn't something that can be resolved right away, at least provide a timeline that makes sense so that that person understands that their concern was heard. So that's my goal. My goal is to represent everyone, and I truly believe it's possible to do that.
Well, this has been terrific. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.